We start with Horizon Europe, Mission Cancer, and we start with our first speaker. We are really honored to have with us Dr. Van der Loo. He is the Scientific and Policy Officer and Cancer Team Lead at the European Commission. He has experience in managing international cancer research, innovation policy, and stakeholder engagement. He led the team that co-created the Horizon Europe mission on cancer. He has also contributed to Europe Beating Cancer Plan and several public and private research and innovation partnership. Really thank you, Dr. Van der Loo, to be with us. We are really honored to have you with us. So the floor is yours for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the organizers for inviting us. I realized early on that I would probably be the only speaker from the Commission, so I wasn't sure to participate because of this. However, given the fact that the Cancer Mission and together with Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, we are really trying to do things differently from the traditional way of European research funding, I thought that I should be there, especially because this is a series of events dedicated to young scientists, which for me personally is very important. I once was a young scientist. I know what it feels like and what you're going through. So I'm pleased to try to help you with you finding your way into grant writing and so on. So my presentation, I hope, is simple enough, and I will try to spend most of the time on what I think is important for you as a young scientist, young researcher, finding your way in European and international grant writing. So can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So the presentation, of course, will be available to all of you. So I'm not going to talk about everything. That is also not necessary. It's just to say that the Mission on Cancer was born, let's say, under the previous Commissioner Moedas, Commissioner for Research and Innovation, but then it had a different portfolio. Never mind. So the challenges with cancer in Europe and unfortunately outside Europe is even worse, are very obvious to people suffering, afflicted by the disease, and for those who try to do research and try to innovate in this area. So to make a long story short, with the help of a Cancer Mission Board, we worked more than 2 years to prepare the ground for this mission. There are 4 other missions. I will not talk about them. So the Mission on Cancer has 4 main objectives, which are very obvious for people working in cancer, and all linked to a goal. So the goal is essentially to improve lives for people who are at risk of cancer, and for those who are a cancer patient or are even a cancer survivor. And so the goal means that we improve the lives. We had to give a clear definition. So following calculations from IARC, the mission probably can achieve the let's say, but through all its actions, can achieve somehow positive impacts for more than 3 million people by 2030. And this is in addition to business as usual, in addition to what is already ongoing in the world when it comes to cancer research and cancer healthcare programs wherever they are. The mission objectives are subdivided in 19 priority areas. All have been described in our cancer implementation plan. And at the same time, we have created 5 transversal priorities, which are equity, or I should say inequity, because it's a huge problem, unfortunately, also in Europe, and even within member states and even within cities of our member states. Innovation. Innovation, important to mention, it's not just technical innovation, it's also social innovation linked to, again, equity inequalities, childhood cancer, personalized medicine, but personalized medicine cancer is sort of an open door, and a very important citizen engagement, because participation of citizens is grounded in almost everything that we do. The timeline for the cancer mission and the other 4 missions is 10 years. So by 2031, we should have achieved what we promise, what we preach. And at the moment, the EU funding that we have been able to commit to cancer mission activities, which is 95% research and innovation, is close to now 500 million euros. And this is including our work program until work program 2024. So I cannot go into too much detail. Let's say there are a few concrete actions. Of course, to run such a big program, you need to create governance to make sure people understand each other and can work together. At the same time, the cancer mission, under each objective, really wanted to launch more infrastructure type of activities, which are extremely ambitious. I think we have all understood it from the beginning. So this, nevertheless, we have started to work on 3 out of 4. One is a data platform that is hopefully going to bring together data for cancer research wherever they are, to allow us to do research that will really further our understanding of cancer and contribute to improving prevention, treatment, quality of life, and anything else that is relevant for cancer patients. We have started to work on a network of comprehensive cancer infrastructures. We have started to work on a cancer patient digital center, which is another digital platform, very much going to be driven by what patients want and need. We have created, of course, a portfolio of research funded focused projects, and we spend a lot of our energy in trying to set up and work in synergy with many other people. And I hope to say a few things about all these concrete actions. Next slide, please. So I thought it was most important to show what we have achieved, or what we can say that we have at least managed to do. It's easier to be concrete. Cancer mission has to be very concrete. We are focusing on creating solutions for challenges in cancer. So we set up the governance. I'm not going to go into details, but it includes also setting up a cancer mission board, which is advising us and has been advising us for several years to get ideas on what are we doing wrong, what do we need to improve, where can we do better, and so on and so forth. We, of course, from the beginning, created a very close synergy with the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. The Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, you have to understand, is a key political objective of the previous commission, led by our Commission President von der Leyen, who absolutely wanted a cancer plan, and there were also people at the Parliament who wanted also to have a major action on cancer for various reasons. So, as this is a political priority, that means that the whole Commission has to contribute to such an initiative, and through the cancer mission we are contributing, and actually we are fully integrated. And I hope you, at the end of my presentation, will understand that there are very strong links, and that the cancer mission is really critical for the cancer plan to achieve certain objectives. We have also created something very simple, because in the cancer mission we like to keep it simple where we can, and so we have used two existing comitology groups, which, as you may or may not know, in the Commission we constantly work with experts, but we also constantly need to work with and support the member states and associated countries, because it's the Council, the member states, that provide the budget and the approval for the Commission to exist and to operate. We are the executive committee of the European Union, after all. So we brought together two existing member state groups, one where we meet almost every 6 weeks, ministries of research, and another one that is focusing on health. You would think that this was simple. It was not so simple, but now after 26 meetings, we see that these ministries really find each other much better than before. Unfortunately, I have to say, people from these ministries from the same country did not even know each other or did not want to work together. And now we start seeing that this is changing. At the same time, we also created a platform of mission hubs, which we call ECHOS. It's a European network of mission hubs. It's essentially telling member states and associated countries, if you are interested in better coordinating your work on cancer, we are here, we hear you, and we want to support you in this effort. So each country that has an interest, this project will support them. And I'm happy to say that all the 27 member states in the end finally came on board, and this ECHOS project is really getting so much request that we have already decided we are going to expand and continue this, because it's becoming very important for creating the connection between what we want to do at an European level and what we should be done at national and even local and regional levels. Citizen engagement, I mentioned that this is a key characteristic of missions. All the 5 missions have to use citizen engagement in their processes. So we did organize quite a large number of focus groups. This was right in the middle of COVID. I still don't understand how we did it, but we did it with the help of many people. It did lead to some interesting observations. In cancer, I don't think there were any surprises, but it is always good to hear directly from citizens how they see cancer and what are the issues for them. We have created, as I said, projects, and then if I can go to the next slide to continue briefly on more achievements. This brings me to what we call synergies, and this has been definitely the most difficult part of the cancer mission. It continues to be difficult because what you're trying to, you want to break silos, and we have learned that people like silos. So it is difficult to break down the silos. It's not easy to convince people that they should work together. However, we were quite successful in, of course, with Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, where we have continuous exchange with the colleagues in DG Santé on all kinds of issues and content issues and whatever of the cancer plan. This works really, really well, and for the insiders, you can really see where the connections are happening. Then we were able to produce, through the cancer mission, through our efforts to co-create, as we say, we were able to co-create research topics, and that's where things get maybe interesting for you as young scientists. So we were able to convince colleagues and programs to open research funding opportunities for cancer in other programs, something that we have not really done before, at least not in my time at the Commission. And so that has meant that, and that's what I wanted to show here, and you can find the details on the research and funding portal of the Commission, that we have somehow created, of course, much more leverage. We have created much more funding opportunities through the cancer mission. So we do not use the mission budget, but we are able to activate, to leverage funding from other programs to do things on cancer. And as you see, it includes various programs, the EIC, which is also a new program started under Horizon Europe, which is fully focusing on innovation, mostly of companies, but also of, let's say, innovative small consortia, like the Pathfinder scheme. We have been working with EIT Health, which is also it's a partnership that exists, and the main focus is to increase innovation, to help universities to create spin-offs. They have an enormous number of activities that I cannot explain to you right now. But we also work with our Commission partnerships. Partnerships are, in all these cases, are consortia, but the consortia now consist of member states for most of these partnerships. So you have member states working together to deal with certain challenges. For example, there's a partnership on personalized medicine. And however, there is also this one partnership, which is in a private-public partnership that was set up under our department, which is called now IHI, Innovative Health Initiative, which is fully industry-driven. And also there we have managed to co-create, co-write really the topics that have led to some really interesting industry-funded projects. However, the more challenging thing with synergies is at the bottom of the slide, and that's where the missions have been criticized for, because the idea is that missions should also change the way we work with industry, the way the economy happens around health industry and health in general. And so that means that missions should be able to create incentives for investments that go beyond EU funding. Because the criticism is like, yeah, it's easy because you have your European budget, so it's easy for you to do something, but show us that you can create incentives beyond framework programs. And this has been difficult for all the 5 missions. But there are 3 concrete examples that are all ongoing. So you probably, I hope, know TransCan, the TransCan Eranet that we have been supporting for many years. And TransCan 3 is the Eranet that we managed to create at the end of Horizon 2020. We have been able to bring together a number of cancer charities because we really think that much more can be done by working together with charities, because in a mission the idea is to work together, put aside egos and work together on certain challenges. So that we have been able to do, and we expect later this year to see them starting together. And this is all about funding clinical trials. And the third example is work with the European Investment Bank, which for the moment we are in a stage of advisory services, but we have high expectations also from that incentive. So from that initiative. Next slide, please. So now I'll move faster because now I want to come down to the issue of grant writing. I think it's very important for young scientists to be aware of TransCan. TransCan is a network of national funders. So as you know, in some countries, in several countries, the funding is not per se on cancer, but health funding is usually a portfolio including HIV, including mental health, including diabetes, including cardiovascular diseases, and including cancer. However, these national funders have come together many years ago. They put together a budget on the table, and they create these core topics. The interesting aspect that we have, that's why we believe strongly in TransCan and similar type of approaches, is that the grants are much smaller, which makes them much more interesting for young scientists to learn. At the same time, they are very challenging because these grants are up to 1.2, 1.5 million euros. So for 3 to 4 groups, this is quite a big challenge. The research is very competitive. The peer review is competitive, but also the research that then has to be carried out. It's very much focused on translation of knowledge into concrete results that we hope and we think we see is contributing to the cancer mission and the cancer plan. And so what I showed on this slide is just a snapshot, but I'm sure many of you are aware, and I would really invite you to have a closer look because it's a way for you to learn to write these grants. These grants TransCan grants have really filled an important niche that was missing in Europe, which are these small collaborative grants across borders where, scientists from different countries learn to work together. So we see it as very interesting, and we really want to continue with this effort. Next slide, please. So then I want to give you only one example of what we mean with transversal priorities in this cancer mission, and also for you, for those scientists who work, for example, on certain cancers, be it organ-based or be it age-based, like in this case, childhood, adolescent, and young adult cancers, also abbreviated as CAIA. So this is just to summarize what we have been able to do. So from the beginning, the Cancer Mission has been using, in the way we write the call topics, we have introduced a mandatory step during the evaluation, which means that the evaluation panels have to take into account the fact that if there is or there are proposals that fulfill the evaluation criteria, that means they have to be above all the evaluation scoring thresholds. And then the evaluators must take into account at least one proposal, sometimes two, that fully 100% address childhood, adolescent, and young adult cancer. This has enabled us to quickly build up a portfolio of projects in this disease area, which usually was impossible because of the enormous competition in EU-funded calls. So that has worked quite well, so well that now we have about 25% of overall budget dedicated to this age group, which is, I must say, is incredible. We have never been able to do this before. The outcomes are listed on the slide. I'm not going to have spent more time on this, and we are definitely going to continue this work. And this is just an example of research funding, but at the same time, for the Cancer Mission, this whole concept of citizen dialogue is very important, citizen engagement. So that's why at the bottom, I write also that we also do things like starting dialogues with young cancer survivors. We started that at the very end of 2022, and we have invited young cancer survivors to Brussels for those who were able to travel, and have been talking to them and listening to them and have acted upon what they said. And we have already, we are about to start projects based on their input. Next slide, please. And this is more of what I was just saying. So this is this whole thing about citizen engagement. So one thing is focus groups, and there are different ways of doing this sort of participative communication, participative engagement. Focus groups is one method, but what we have started doing much more is focusing on certain age groups. So we have started this dialogue with young cancer survivors, which has led to a number of meetings. It has also, we have of course brought also the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan in, and you will see, you may have seen that the Cancer Plan has also launched actions in that direction. We have also, through a tender, we set up a bus roadshow, which means that the bus that you see on the slide has traveled through 3 countries for the whole summer through these 3 countries. It's been quite successful. It has reached hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. So this was done by a contractor. We have all the data. It's very important to do this in the national language, and that's where the languages come in, and these are very key to achieving impact, to interacting with citizens regionally and locally. So that went so well that we are going to continue this as well. The other example is that of course you have to do this through your projects, and I will come to this later. And so this bus roadshow, combining with projects that we already funded, this really led to a broad mobilization of stakeholders. And it's not just scientists or hospitals or research institutes. We saw also tremendous interest in particular 2 of these 3 countries when it comes to ministries and agencies in these countries. And we are now starting on a communication campaign to increase this work, to increase the outreach, to increase the understanding of what the Cancer Mission is and what it wants to do. Next slide, please. So I say that because this keeps coming back in the grants that are going to be submitted, that you will write. So this is an important part of these grants, this concept of citizen engagement. So just to again be very concrete, since this is call it an achievement, this is just a summary of what we have been able to do when it comes to research funding. So in the middle you see depicted the 4 major objectives that and the main goal. And linked to this, every work program, we try to open research in each of the 4 objectives, so that there is enough opportunity for scientists and physicians, innovators, SMEs, etc., patient advocacy groups to participate, but also to make sure that we do what we say, that we try to build on all the 4 objectives. The colored bars are the ones that refer to topics in work program 2024, which were evaluated last year, and these projects are about to start. We hope that all these projects will start certainly before June, July. So this so far it looks really good. So that is a short snapshot. You can look at the titles. You can find exactly the same topics on the funding and tenders portal. Next slide, please. So what does it really mean, this grant writing? And that's why the next 2 slides, I think, are the most important ones for you. We have shown this slide at each information day. We will show it again because this is very important. So I want to say a few things about the Cancer Mission portfolio, what we mean with project clusters, what we mean with citizen engagement and end user involvement. So when it comes to grant writing in submitting proposals to the health cluster, or in this case to the Cancer Mission, the mission work program, because the mission work program is a separate standalone document which brings together the call topics for 5 missions. So when you open the document, you will see it addresses each of the 5 missions, and cancer is somewhere halfway. You click on the index and you are brought to the Cancer Mission topics, which usually are between 4 to 7 topics, not more, because we don't have so much money. We have roughly every year 125 million that we can spend, which for such a ambitious program is not very much. So important is always that to mention that missions like the health cluster and other programs in the Commission, they are based on excellence. Excellence is the main criterion. It's not like the widening program, which has other very important criteria, but here the main criterion is scientific merit, excellence, and then of course impact and implementation. And that's important because we keep putting the thresholds high, because we do not want to support any projects that are not of sufficient quality, because we know that there are always delays, there are always challenges, especially with clinical studies. So we do not want to launch projects that already start with serious weaknesses, because we know that they may not even deliver on what they promise. Important in all the mission topics, and this will keep coming back, is that we consistently aim for involving other disciplines and other sectors. This makes it more difficult, and sometimes much more difficult, for people who write the grants, who want to come with smart ideas for the research and innovation, to write the grants and also to do that work, that they want to propose. So it's definitely going to be beyond business as usual. What we always ask, but it should be seen as freedom to operate. It should not be seen as a constraint, is that you have to budget for networking activities, because the networking is very important, more than even before, because we want to see the interactions between disciplines, sectors, cross actors, and for this you need to be able, after you have submitted and after your proposal has gone through the evaluation, you have to have the liberty to operate and to then make the necessary fill in the necessary details in your grant to do this networking, because we also realize that it is a waste of time and it's not useful to start asking you to do this before submission. It only creates a lot of stress. It is not very useful, because it depends also which are these proposals that in the end are successful, because those are the ones you may want to network with or with other proposals. So that is why we leave it very open. I think we are clear that it is open and can be changed, but you have to budget for the networking activities. because we are putting these projects together in clusters, and I will explain that later. So the citizen engagement component is very important because that is what these missions are about. So we really want to see involvement of citizens, and this is not only patients in these projects. And we call that participative research models, where the end user is very important. We give here some examples, but if you start looking, you'll find hundreds of these sort of living labs or other participative approaches. And end users are not always citizens. They can also be cancer centers. They can be national, regional health authorities. They can be certain services like screening services. They can be local communities, such as schools, cities. It really depends on what we describe. So I think this is a very important slide, and I hope that we get across the message also here. Next slide, please. And this is the second important slide, because we do not work anymore with single projects except for the, let's say, coordination and support actions, except for projects where we really want them to deliver a blueprint, or we want to build them to start building a sort of infrastructure component. But even those projects are linked to these clusters. All the other projects, so the projects that really focus on research and innovation, are all brought together for each topic into clusters. And again, this is not to be seen as a constraint. It's really to be seen as an advantage. And I must say, we get very positive feedback also last week again from one cluster, because now you have the opportunity to work together across disciplines even more. You can really start tackling also, let's call it sort of policy challenges or barriers in Europe when it comes to research, when it comes to working with citizens, when it comes to, it could be the clinical trial regulation. Anything is possible. The only thing we do when we bring the projects together is we say, we bring you together for this and this reason. We give the examples of existing clusters, and we say, if these are the areas that you can collaborate on. For example, the data management plan, maybe there are common elements. How maybe to work better on when it comes to research and innovation capacity. Work together on communication by producing videos, by launching a campaign, whatever is useful for you, for your projects, because we do not want to see any sort of cosmetic, it has to be useful. Citizen engagement. So why don't you do citizen engagement together? And indeed, that's what's happening. So this work is then written down in common deliverables. And of course, when I say common, it means that for all these 5, 6, or sometimes even 12 projects that work together, they only produce one and the same common deliverable. So as not to to burden consortia with unnecessary work. But they can also work on inequalities and access to treatment, whatever. So that is the concept of project clusters, and that's what we describe in each topic. Next slide. So I'm almost done. So I just wanted to also give you 2 concrete examples. This is a project that works in a cluster on implementation research on primary prevention. This is called 4PCAN. And this project is really starting bottom up. It really started working with citizens in 2 rural communities. The one that is the most advanced is in Romania, and that's what this slide is about. And they are now starting to do the same in Bulgaria. And it's it's really bottom up. It's quite difficult, and but that's exactly what we want to do. I have no time to explain further, but you can read the slide or you can look up the project. Next slide, please. This is one other example, my last example, which is about a quickly growing portfolio of pragmatic clinical trials that we think are very important because they're completely underfunded. It's all about treatment optimization, so about clinical effectiveness. This project is Premio Collab is focusing on diagnostics in breast cancer. I have highlighted what it tends to do, but the important part is that there is a key. The whole project is spun around citizen engagement. So there's a clear concept of living labs that was set up where the citizens, the patients, the breast cancer patients have a clear say in the diagnostic pathway that they want to see and how they want to see it implemented. So you can find more details on their website, but this is sort of what we mean. And this is, each of these projects has such a component where citizens are being working together with physicians and scientists. Next slide, please. That was my presentation. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Dr. van der Loo. Really helpful presentation. So I don't know if you have time to stay with us till 4, or do you want to take the questions now? What do you prefer?
I cannot stay until 4, but...
Okay, so anyone having questions is welcome to use the chat, and I will read the questions. I want to start with a question while our audience submits questions. So as a scientist myself, and as a reviewer also myself, sometimes it's difficult to develop the part of impact of our application. And for instance, if we have, let's say, a project on basic science, on dissecting a molecular mechanism of a particular pathway related to cancer, it's quite easy to write and to show the impact, the immediate impact related to science. Of course, we know more, we know better a molecular mechanism, and we can develop new drugs, etc. So my question is this: how to develop the narrative of a wider impact of such a project, of a basic science project? How can we develop the impact on society, on next generation, future students of STEM, impact on end users? So any suggestions from your point of view? How can we think wider about the impact of our science?
Okay, so the thing that I can say is from all the evaluations that I have organized and managed and chaired and seen, is that, of course, the one of the important thing is always to be transparent, to present the data when they exist, to not hide other data that do exist but you think should not be there. So be transparent, be clear. If you want to show data that are unpublished, make sure that everyone can understand what you mean. So be clear. And I say that because you now are trying to link two things which are not easy to be linked. You talk about basic science and about impact. So of course it's linked and it can be done. But so if the project is focusing on basic science, the impact should be linked to, correlated to what basic science can deliver in 3, 4, 5, 6, or even 7 years. Because as you know, we never ask for specific duration. It's really exceptional. So projects can go on much longer if they want. But the impact has to be linked to, it has to be credibly linked to what you want to do in your proposal. So if the proposal is about basic science, basic research, frontier research, as some people call it, the impact has to be accordingly described. So you can then not start talking about, let's call it science fiction. If the proposal, and that's why I say that, because the program where we work, we do very little basic science. Basic science is done and funded mostly through the ERC, which indeed the reporting is very simple. The output is essentially publications, Marie Curie training grants, which is a lot about training, but also there's a lot of early translational basic science. Very important program. But the programs that we are responsible of, so the health cluster in particular, but there are more programs that I could mention. We are clearly working at a level, let's say, call it translation research, call it higher TRL levels, technology readiness levels, which we rarely describe, but in the Cancer Mission we have sometimes We have sometimes done this because we have to show clearly where to start from. So if you have a basic science project, the impact should be linked and realistically linked to this. So keep it modest. If the proposal is submitted to a cancer mission or the health cluster, the proposal is definitely not about basic science, because the topics are clearly asking for, sometimes very difficult challenges that require a lot of, let's say, advanced research, high TRL levels, really technology validation, piloting, and then of course the impact is a very different one. So the only thing I'm saying is make sure that what you do in the proposal when it comes to science is credible, is linked to the impact, that it makes sense. If because that's one of the problems, we see many proposals that do certain things, promise certain things, and then the evaluators say, well, yeah, this is not credible. It takes 10 minutes and then that's it. The proposal goes below the thresholds, you see? So I cannot be more clear. Because I cannot be more clear than this. It has to be all matching.
Absolutely, very clear. So it's a matter of being visionary and credible at the same time. So giving the vision of what will be possible, but being credible and reliable. The last question, I don't see questions now, other questions in the chat, but to conclude, what is your advice for a junior European investigator? Where to start from? You, in your introduction, you said that you were a junior investigator. So now, what advice could you give us? Could you give to junior investigators? Where to start?
Yeah, I think it's important for scientists like ourselves to move out of your country. If you have the opportunity, try to spend some time of your career, early career in this case, outside your own country, so that you learn to work in different research environments. I do not talk about cultural things. I talk about professional, because that's important, because in the end, what counts in grant writing, let's say certainly where we work, is that it's not about a single PI's high qualities, or a PI who has the most amazing papers in top journals. Unfortunately that's not enough. It's not going to work in where we work. What's more important is the high quality of the network, that you as a network, and this includes young scientists, because we know that it's mostly the postdocs and the PhD who do all the key research also in these proposals that we support in this program, that this network is really high quality. And that's why it's important that very early on scientists learn to work in different environments. Let's say, keep it simple, different countries, different institutions. I think that is very important, because it's not only about the language, but there's different ways of doing research, and it's, I think, very important to learn that very early on, because it helps you to improve your qualities as an investigator, and later as a principal investigator. But it also helps to network, and that's why Transcan, I think, is a really good example to do all this and be exposed to the peer review, because Transcan is they have to follow the rules that we use. They use exactly the same rules, and so people have to learn that peer review is tough, and 5 times you may fail, and the 6th time your proposal goes through. And it sounds like this is a lottery. I don't think it's a lottery, but let's say it is a challenge, and it's something you have to learn. But I think the networking is a very important component, and that means also networking with scientists, or let's say people working in science and innovation that are not necessarily in your domain. This interdisciplinary intersect, this is very important, because it's that's where we can create new innovation, where we can create new solutions, including social social innovation.
Well, thank you so much, really, for being with us. And I have to say, a key word that you said many times really was together, together. So working together, I think, also is the mission of our academy, putting together young scientists from all over Europe. And thanks for being together with us this afternoon, Dr. van der Loo. Thank you again. We are really honored for your presence. So thank you. And as our speaker just said, as his first advice, mobility, change country, move. Well, we have an opportunity to be founded and change country, and these are the Marie Curie Fellowship Grant.